Barbara, thank you so much for joining us here in this living room session of the House of Beautiful Business. We really appreciate your time. Where are you right now and how are you?
Oh, I'm doing really well. I'm actually in Sweden, in South Park, a place called Hyllie. I'm in the IKEA office.
So tell us about your story. How did you become Chief Digital Officer of IKEA, which is really a dream job for many? You started in this role, I believe, in 2018. What prepared you for this role and what would you consider a challenge when you began it?
Absolutely. Well, I've always tried to work for companies that had a purpose that would be bigger than profit, pure profit. And so that's what attracted me to IKEA. They have a beautiful mission. It's creating a better everyday life for the many people. And they live it every day. The values are really, really strong. And so it's actually a beautiful thing to be part of the company. And to this point, I had worked for about 22 years in the technology industry for companies such as Google, YouTube, Samsung, Texas Instruments, or Grubhub. And I have done a lot of different things, and I love technology, and I really especially love what it can do for human beings in a positive way. And so all the companies that I have worked for, had a positive impact on consumers, on people, on societies.
When you started in 2018, the process of digital transformation was already underway, but your hiring or your joining was a moment of acceleration, right? Or it was like a catalyst in that sense. Is that right?
Yes, it is right. So when I joined, there was an IT organization, and what we said is, we're going to transform it into a digital organization, and digital is business. There is no longer a separation of this is technology and this is business. It's actually part of the same coin.
So let's move on to the present. Currently, at this moment in time, what are the three main strategic initiatives, digital strategy initiatives that you're currently working on?
Yeah, there's three important ones. So the first one is really how the experience with consumers are with everything digital related. So imagine from e-com to the digital side of the stores and reinventing that. And so we've been now for 3 years revamping what IKEA is in the digital world. And I'm so happy that we also re-engineered the landscape actually for the last 2 years. Because then when COVID came, we were ready without knowing it. We were ready for very, very high peaks of demand digitally. Life at home is really important, even more now with COVID. And so it's been incredible to see that the only IKEA open sometimes was the digital IKEA, and how to actually make sure that we satisfy and we meet the demand of many people around the world. The second part has been the supply chain. Supply chain has been a very strong competitive advantage for IKEA. This is an integrated value chain, and it was incredibly well thought and engineered for the flat pack serving the stores. Now in a world where we're in omni-channel, a lot of different touch points towards the consumer, then that supply chain needs to be evolved. So we keep a lot of the advantages and we evolve with digital, with data at the core. So a lot of work there. And then the third thing is something that is really dear to my heart. I think there is a way of actually building digital experiences and technology that is human-centric. And I think that there is a better way of actually respecting human rights when doing experiences. I think there is transparency with no hidden costs, simplicity, and making sure that we take out biases from algorithms as much as we can. And so I'm working really hard with my team to make sure we live up to digital that will be human in its core and will serve actually in a positive way consumers, society, the planet at large. So that is my third initiative, a really, really big one.
I wanted to follow up on the very process of setting strategy and putting it in place itself and how that has been affected by COVID. Because when I spoke to other C-level executives or strategy officers, they said it was really hard because essentially all of our 3-year strategy plans quickly became obsolete. This was like a mega disruption, COVID, right? And it kind of threatened the very point of strategy in the first place. So I'm curious as to how you adjusted and how you retooled your strategy and how long it took you to do that last year when the first wave of the pandemic hit us.
It's a great question. So we set up a digital strategy for a period of 3 years when I joined. And so two components that I think worked really well, and those two components have not changed. So the first one is to bring simplicity to the complex world, especially with digital. Complexity for the people that don't work with it every day can seem overwhelming. And so bringing that simplicity and continuing with that simplicity at every step of the communication for the many people in the company is something that is really, really important. The second thing is we defined a North Star, and that North Star has not changed. And the North Star is something that you're inspired and you want to wake up in the morning to actually fight for that. And so that North Star continues to be there with COVID or without. It continues to, guide us towards that. What has changed, and the strategy was really made with that in mind, is that in order to get to the North Star, the path needs to be agile. You in the short term need to adapt to your circumstances, your people, whatever comes your way. But as long as you don't miss where you are going, then I think you can actually adapt. And adaptation is the most important skill that I think companies have today with regards to strategy, ways of working, or anything really. It's really like this mindset of forever trying, evolving, and getting it right for the circumstances and people around you. So that's how we have evolved. I have to say though, with COVID, we completely erased all schedules. We put a lot of cross-functional together, decision-making, power the teams, go. And we were on a mission. So there was energy. There was, this is difficult, but let's get together and actually do something for the good of IKEA. And it worked. So we learned a lot, and I would lie to say it was easy. No, it wasn't. But we are happy with all the learnings and what we achieved and accelerated during this time.
I want to double down a bit on AI in particular. I believe you acquired a company, Geomagical Labs, visual AI, 3D, I believe, company. And of course, you invest in machine learning and AI capabilities. There's an interesting dynamic, right, between AI on the one hand, and on the other hand, the humanism that the brand represents. So you could argue that IKEA, like more maybe perhaps than any other consumer brand, has the responsibility and the power to really figure out, right, the right relationship between AI and humanistic values. So to what extent is that a subject of discussion, and is it reflected in your digital strategy at this point?
It's a very, very big point of discussion, action, and promise, actually. So when we say human technology, what we mean is we need to rewrite the contract that we have with people with digital experiences. I believe in the past, we were getting free services, but the hidden costs were not transparent enough. And the loss of privacy has been actually a big part of it. And so we are rebuilding the digital touch points in a very different way. And the different way is to say, at any point, your data consumer, which is yours, you should be able to decide what we use and what we don't. And in order to do that, I don't want you to go through legal jargon. I don't want you to go through hidden menus. it should be a very visual understanding of what we are using. And so we are experimenting with that in the app. It's just a button and you can see exactly on the spot at this point in the flow, what IKEA is using. And what we have seen actually is actually very beautiful because there is trust that gets established in that way of trading data. And people that discover this function and use it actually come back to IKEA more often. So it's very encouraging that we not only get actually better data, but we also get more trust and more engagement. So we believe, a new wave of digital, respectful human companies can come. And definitely IKEA is working hard to make that a reality.
Right now, we're all experiencing that the very definition of home is changing dramatically. And of course, IKEA has significant influence on how we experience or what home means to us. So I guess my two questions, how do you see the notion of home changing when you think about the world in 2030, say? And then what is going to be IKEA's role and place in the world in 2030?
I think in 2030, IKEA will be circular. And this is a very, very important point. We are already experimenting and putting the building blocks in order to get there. That means buying back the furniture or being able to prepare certain parts so that we give a second life to furniture. There's even a store open now in Sweden, which is a secondhand store. And so we are, putting in place what we need in order to have this circular business model be a reality. We also think that by 2030, we will be able to have this human technology very much embedded in the way we interact with people across the world. And we strongly believe that respect for equality and gender equality especially is important. And so when we do algorithms, when we interact with people, always respecting people, they are the ones that should decide, and actually us embedding the values that we have in order to do the best job possible with humanity at the core. So I think new experiences will come, new business models will come. We are very much striving for, this having consumers are the core, and then making sure that everything we do for them is positive for society and for the planet overall. And that model is a reality for every single decision that is happening in the company. So by 2030, we think it would be actually a reality that consumers would actually feel when they interact with IKEA everywhere.
So at the core of the House of Beautiful Business is this concept of beautiful business. And people often ask us, what exactly does it mean? And we somehow, we have managed to refuse to really define it because the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and it's a very elusive term, and that's the point. But I did want to ask you what it might mean to you. What does it mean to be a beautiful business for you personally? And would you consider IKEA to be one?
Yes, I think it's a beautiful term. I think a beautiful business is a business that contributes positively to our world, our sustainability, our society, and that actually puts the human at the center. I think we are at the age where it's not okay to not be a beautiful business anymore. I think we are at a point where actually it feels great because doing the right thing is also good business. And so I've been, reflecting about what it is to be a conscious brand, a beautiful brand that, strives for a bigger purpose. And the bigger purpose is here and now, with the planet and with strong inequalities in our society that we need to tackle. And we have a responsibility. And so leaning in and helping actually do the right thing is what I will call a beautiful business. And I think IKEA is a beautiful business. The values are fantastic, and they really are striving to do the right thing for many people around the world. And, you know, think about many people around the world. We've got India, we've got the US, we've got China. And so how to really be affordable for all these people around the world, and making sure that we do that in a sustainable way for the planet, and we improve people's lives starting with the home. So it's a beautiful journey, and I think it's definitely a beautiful journey and beautiful business.
So as a planetary conscious, human-centric brand, empathy, of course, is of vital importance, I suppose, to your activities. There are these famous stories of Howard Schultz, founder and chairman of Starbucks, spending time as a barista in Starbucks stores. And I suppose you go also, of course, you know, very often to actual physical stores and observe consumer behavior and probably do that yourself. How about the digital realm? How do you foster empathy and actually observe behavior or spend time with customers online, if you do so? So how do you nurture empathy online?
Yeah, I think empathy is definitely a mix of analog and digital. So IKEA is known for spending time at the homes of people for, you know, a lot of time, different people around the world, and really understanding, you know, the dreams, the aspirations, and how does it translate in the home. So do I need now this private environment, and now it's a public collective space in my home? And so really deeply understanding, you know, the human being. What digital adds here is the immediacy of the feedback. And it's also like having feedback globally, immediately, everywhere. So it's somehow a faster cycle of getting feedback that, together with the deep analog insights, you know, are helping, you know, a new dimension of empathy. I don't think that one or the other, I think it's together. And digital is offering amazing, amazing possibilities to just be closer to the reality of many people around the world. And that is invaluable.
Thank you so much for taking the time to with me and sharing your thoughts on digital and COVID and IKEA, the brand, and really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Same, it was a pleasure, Tim. Thank you so much.